At school during the pandemic, you may have had to leave the windows open to make sure that there is enough airflow in the classroom. This might have meant that your classroom becomes cold, even with the heating on. It also wastes a lot of heat that is produced as it goes straight out of the window, costing the school a lot in fuel bills as a result. This is obviously a big problem and unsustainable in the long run. Luckily though, there are solutions out there that can help. But to understand these solutions, we must first understand where our energy comes from and how we use it. We have a lot of resources available to us on Earth that can be used to provide energy to power our daily activities. So let's take a look at some of the main energy resources available for use on Earth. Traditionally, we have made use of fossil fuels like coal from mines and oil and gas from drilling and extraction. These methods have been around since the Industrial Revolution. Following the end of World War II, nuclear power also began to be used more widely as a way of generating energy, mainly through electricity. More recently though, there has been an increased use of new energy resources. These include creating biofuel from crops and cooking oil, harnessing the power from the wind and the sun, generating electricity through hydropower, capturing the power from the tides and waves, and even using the geothermal energy from underneath the Earth's surface. All of these energy resources have their various advantages and disadvantages, and can also be grouped into renewable and non-renewable energy resources. A renewable energy source is one that is being, or can be, replenished as it is used. This means that biofuel, wind, hydroelectricity, geothermal power, the tides, the sun, and waves are all renewable energy resources. Because coal, oil, gas, and nuclear fuel cannot be replenished as they are used, they are not renewable. The use of renewable energy resources has grown considerably in recent times. The UK, for example, is a world leader in offshore wind farms and has seen their costs fall dramatically. This is because their use produces no greenhouse gas emissions that cause harm to the environment. This is unlike the fossil fuels of coal, oil and gas, which when burnt to release their energy also release emissions to contribute to global warming. In the future, it is therefore likely that we will see further increases in the use of renewable energy resources as we fight climate change. Some of the renewable energy resources have their disadvantages though. Wind and solar energy are reliant on the wind blowing and the sun shining. When this doesn't happen, they cannot be used as energy resources. These renewable energy sources are therefore called intermittent renewables, and so we still rely on fossil fuels, mainly gas, to step up and fill the gap because they can be used on demand. All of these energy sources are only useful if they can be used to power the things that we want and need to do in the economy. Traditionally, we have relied, and still rely, on the use of fossil fuels to power our transport using petrol and diesel, produce our electricity through coal and gas power stations, and heat our homes through gas boilers. To win the fight against climate change, we will need to use new technologies and solutions, powered by renewable energy sources. Things like electric vehicles, powered by an electricity system that uses low carbon sources like wind and solar power. We will also need to move to low carbon heating systems, where there are also already solutions that can be powered by renewable electricity. While science can identify the environmental issues with the use of different fuels, political decisions must also be made to act on this evidence. In the UK, the government has introduced a legally binding target to have net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, which would end our contribution to climate change. While changing the way we use our energy resources is an important consideration in tackling climate change, reducing waste energy is one of the best ways we can reduce our emissions. Avoiding waste energy means that not only are fewer emissions released, but we also pay a lot less for our energy requirements. You may have come across some big energy wastes before. A striking example is the heat that is lost through the cooling towers of power stations, simply being chucked out into the atmosphere. Or another example closer to home would be having windows open whilst the heating is on, or having a house with poor insulation. Again though, there are some great solutions out there already that can help us to reduce our energy wastage. Let's take a close look at one of these examples. In schools, a lot of heat is wasted through open windows. We need fresh air to flow in, but we want to stop heat flowing out. So, can we solve the problem of the wasted heating in the classroom? Well, there is a solution called mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, or MVHR for short. SAV Systems has a product called Airmaster MVHR, which is a great example of this and how we can reduce the energy waste in schools. It uses electricity that can be produced through renewable sources to reduce emissions. MVHR systems extract the stale air from the classroom, replacing it with filtered fresh air. There is also a clever system within MVHR units called a heat exchanger. The heat exchanger captures the warmth from the stale air leaving the classroom and transfers it to the fresh air entering the room, without the air mixing. The Airmaster MVHR, for example, captures 90% of the heat that would otherwise have been wasted out of a window. By installing an MVHR system, schools could considerably reduce their fuel bills and energy usage as a result. Energy wastage is currently a big problem and unsustainable in the long run. Luckily though, there are solutions out there that can help. But to understand these solutions, we must first understand where our energy comes from and how we use it. There are companies like SAV Systems who are already deploying solutions to using our energy sources in a more efficient and environmentally friendly manner. With this growth in the solutions available, it seems like there is hope to end global warming.